the Prison City Podcast. When the bars go up, you're officially locked in.
Welcome to the Prison City Podcast. I am the unofficial host here. My name is Patrick Cutler, and we have candies for little boys tonight if anybody wants to stop by the office tonight, and we'll give them out. With that said, let's go through our lineup here tonight, starting with Jay Marsh. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, guys. Clearly in San Francisco, if you couldn't tell from the bridge. How's everyone's week going so far? God, I can never talk on this podcast.
And we're going to switch it to Mahomes.
Jay Marsh, don't worry. Like, talking on a podcast isn't that big of a deal, dude. No one cares if you can't talk on a podcast. Really excited for a new week. Special shout out to our friends at the Stagpole in beautiful Idaho.
I believe that's actually the Spragpole.
I thought that's what I said.
Let's just move this on to Tony Savala. Kelly Cutler.
Yeah, great to be here. I always forget to prepare something for my intro until I'm sitting here 3 seconds before we go, but I think Pat said it enough in his little John Wayne Gacy, come get some candy at our house intro.
So the first question I'm going to go to Mahomes. How do you think COVID-19 would have impacted the production of Enigma?
Honestly, I don't think it would have affected the production at all. I feel like more than likely we would have been able to get onto the prison because everyone was in lockdown in the prison, so that they wouldn't have had any sort of drills going on.
So you think the prison would have done the right thing and let us film on their land?
I think really when you look back on it, COVID-19 is what has affected Enigma from really gaining the popularity that it should.
Not forcing everyone to stay at home and watch YouTube, where it could have really excelled.
Dude, Enigma's up to like 500 views now, so yeah, I have to agree with that.
How many of those are yours?
It doesn't matter, dude. People are watching. Doesn't matter who it is.
All right, so today's show, we're going to talk about Georgia's new voting law, SB 202. Told everybody on this panel to do some research on it. However, I did not. I'm just kidding. So I'm gonna start this out with I've read parts of the bill. I'm not an expert on the bill like CNN fact checkers, but I know enough about the bill to sit there and say it comes to like Major League Baseball. So Major League Baseball didn't like the bill or whatever, and they didn't like the bill because it discriminated. Well, they said it discriminated against minorities, especially players who are black, not white, not like everybody on this panel. So one of the points I want to make so Major League Baseball, because the All-Star game was going to be hosted in Atlanta, Georgia. Very it has probably of the cities in America, it probably has one of the most non-white populations in the entire country. And so they took it from one of the most non-white populations in the entire country, and they moved it to Coors Field in Denver, Colorado, which might honestly be the most white population out of any MLB team in this entire country. What do you think about that, Mahomes? Your thoughts?
It really is interesting that MLB decided to do that. I'm not going to sit here and say whether it's right or wrong because I guess it's not really my choice. But Colorado is certainly, people at the Rockies in MLB, if people don't know, are the most religious organization, like potentially in sports. Very conservative, very religious organization. So it is kind of funny that they would go that route. It's really interesting just in terms of like Major League Baseball. There's a bid process that is like, it's a years long bid process to get the All-Star game. And you have to put together bids and you have to show that you have the infrastructure and the hotels. And there's all these crazy things that you have to tie to it. And then all of a sudden we can just move from this to this like that. So it's really interesting. I mean, we can get deeper into the like voter suppression because I've never had any sort of issues with like mail-in balloting. I've done the Dropbox ballot in pretty much the last like 8 times I've voted. I've had no issues with it. I don't know if I've ever mailed a ballot in. Oh, I did when I did my first absentee ballot in Montana. So I don't have any issues with that. It's just weird for me. It's weird to think that they would take an all-star game away because there's so much that goes into it behind the scenes. And so I feel for the people, for the Braves, because there's a lot of money that's made to those people in sales or to people in corporate partnerships who try and sell the sponsorships that just it's in contracts, and now you don't have the All-Star game. So a lot of people that didn't make this choice were affected greatly and lost a lot of money.
Yeah, so I'm just going to keep this on Mahomes for 2 seconds here. But another point I was going to make is that there's a lot of black businesses in Atlanta, Georgia, that suffered from this. But I want to rewind this back to this isn't the first time it's ever happened. Politics are kind of raging out of control these days, political correctness, everything else. North Carolina had some kind of transgender ban on going to the bathroom or whatever in North Carolina. And the Charlotte, I don't know if it was the Bobcats or the Hornets at the time. It's hard to tell, but they were going to host the All-Star game that season for the NBA. And the NBA said no, but it was like a year or two later they said okay, they can host it now. Do you think that's going to happen though with Atlanta? Because I kind of see it like okay, they're going to ban it, try to make this big political statement. But do you think Atlanta's going to be hosting this All-Star game in like the next year or 2 years from now?
I think so. I mean, especially Major League Baseball, there's always kind of these, I wouldn't say under the table, but it's almost kind of like, hey, we just built a new stadium. We're kind of angling for the All-Star game in the next 5 years, or like, the Dodgers were supposed to have it last year. They did all these big renovations. That's kind of part of like, hey, we're going to put in hundreds of millions of dollars, whether it's a brand new stadium or renovations. And then we're going to kind of give the carrot on top of like, hey, thanks for doing all that work to stay modern. Here's the All-Star game. So I think it'll eventually go there. And I don't know if it's going to be 2 years from now. Cause like I said, it's the bid process is like 5 or 6 years long where you're looking down the road. So
yeah. So let's just win this. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this, Jay Marsh?
Like, I think because even with Charlotte, what it ends up hurting is like the local businesses within a mile radius of the stadium. They lose all that foot traffic, whatever their sales are. It just disappears because they're all anticipating this high like increase in sales. And that's what's truly tragic about things like this. About the voter suppression bill, like, because I think the main focus was like it required you to have an ID, correct? Like that was kind of the main, I guess, GOP argument is like, we just want you to have an ID to vote. If I'm not mistaken.
Just to elaborate. Just me going through it personally. One of the things was they, and I did some research and talked to some people on this. A couple things. Originally said they didn't want people. The bill said they did not want people handing out water and food to those standing in line to vote, which sounds extreme. But then on further research on that, it was about they don't want, you're standing in line and a bunch of Biden or Trump, it could be either party, a campaign people come up with free water, free food, and they're wearing the sticker of this political candidate. So psychologically, if you do sales, whatever, Mahomes knows this is like when you give someone something for free, psychologically, they naturally feel like they have to return that favor. So it was that part of it. I understood it. It's not about manipulating the vote. The other part, though, when it comes to absentee ballots, was during COVID, it was like 180 days. They could God, that sounds insane. Maybe it was 110. It was. I saw the stat today. It was 100 days plus that you could turn in a ballot for an election, and they basically cut that down to like a month or two or something like that.
Because I remember with the last election cycle, people were mailing in their absentee ballots in like August, it seemed like.
Yes.
Like really early before like almost anything ever got finalized through like both the parties' process.
Okay, sorry, I'm going to go through just some stats I'm pulling off of. It's like PBS NPR here. Whereas vote 11 weeks before an election. No, 11 weeks before an election, they can mail in a ballot instead of 180 days. That's just fucking insane. I'm sorry, that's insane. May, you can mail in a ballot 6 months before a fucking election. What can you imagine what could happen between 6 months and election day? It's like that's racist. Kelly, take it over.
Well, I don't know much about the Georgia thing except for what you guys have been talking about in the chats. But again, I'm a fundamentalist. Keep the politics out of sports and keep the sports out of politics. It goes back to all the cancel culture. Who the fuck cares what happens on Capitol Hill or we're in Montana? Who cares what happens in Helena? Is that really we're going to boycott? We're not going to have our Little League All-Star game in Deer Lodge. We're going to move to Anaconda or something. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And it's I just wish that they could separate the two, because they really are ruining Major League sports for a lot of people. I mean, they've lost millions and millions of fans in every single of the big three or the big four Major League sports. And I mean, I'm a sports bettor, and we do our fantasy football and stuff, and it's really fucking addicting. But I mean, I'd lie if I was to say I didn't sit there a couple times and say, fuck the NFL, you know, I'm tired of this shit. Just keep it separated. We don't need to, you know, Democrats, Republicans, whatever you are, can't we all just agree on fucking sports, you know, and leave it away from the politics?
And this is what I'm gonna agree with you on, Kelly, before I throw it back to Mahomes, is that yeah, I mean, going back to the Charlotte North Carolina bill or whatever, they boycotted the All-Star game in Charlotte, North Carolina, or whatever. Oh, and this is where it's phony as fuck to me. 2 years later or whatever, they still had the fucking All-Star game in Charlotte, North Carolina. So it's like it's just fake as fuck partisan politics, and it makes no sense.
Well, like, I'm going to interlude on Kelly's topic, especially with the NBA in the past like decade, the viewership has dropped drastically, especially with like the firing of, was it Morley for the Houston Rockets, when he kind of did some like free Hong Kong type stuff. Like that's when the NBA viewership lost huge in America, because they're just trying to keep that billion person country in China. That's all they're like, that's the NBA's market right now. Like, there's very little in the States. It's crazy.
Yeah. So how long has this All-Star game been set to be in Atlanta, Georgia? How long has this been?
About 4 years, I think.
Yeah, see, that's fucking ridiculous. Whatever your viewpoints are, I don't know, again, the whole backstory, but just let them do it. You know, it's been set there. Let them do it. They've been planning on it. If it pisses you off, you never have to do it there again. But again, if it's political, then go fuck yourself too.
Yeah, Kelly, another point I want to make is your camera doesn't make you look like a serial killer at all.
I got the sun coming through this window over here.
Beautiful. It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Getting some really good shade on the left side of your face.
Oh, thank you. I've been working on that side of my face.
But that, like, politics and sports and viewer ratings and stuff, and this is a conversation that me and Mahomes has had. Everybody's had a little bit. Is like, certain people are diehard fans are going to tune in no matter what. Like, I mean, NFL is so popular, you're going to tune in no matter what. But it's just crazy that you would try to polarize a specific audience with your politics and everything, knowing that you're going to turn away a lot of fans, especially like baseball, because baseball, they don't exactly have a whole lot of fans when it comes to like broadcast sports to begin with, right?
No, I mean, baseball is easily, like, in terms of the average fan, it's easily the oldest. And I think that's something that Major League Baseball is, and to their credit, they're working on, of like, how do you make this game more hip, or, you know, reach this younger generation, that kind of the instant gratification generation that we have now. And so it's tough, because baseball, you either had to grow up playing it, like everyone started doing slow pitch or, you know, played Little League, but it's tough to watch on TV. I'll say that as a baseball fan. It's great in person, tough to watch on TV. So how do you make it more exciting? They need to be better at marketing their players, things like that. But the thing, and I'm okay if people disagree with something politically, but really, like, there's no need to take business away from Atlanta, because it's not like the Braves made this decision. It's not like, you know, and I guess I don't know the voting background of like the owner of the Braves or like the president of the Braves, but it's pretty unfair to do that. It's like, I'm okay if you think like, hey, this is unfair, because voting should be, yes, I mean, this is going to sound like a crazy bold statement, you should definitely be an American citizen to have to vote, but I think we should make it as easy as possible for people to vote. So I have no problem with that. And then, quick sidebar, like, I don't know, you have to be pretty stupid to like be in line getting ready to vote, and someone hands you a water and you're like, shit, I'm going to vote for that candidate. I came here knowing who I was going to vote for. This bottle of water changed my mind.
I think that there's a lot of undecided voters where, you know, there are a lot of stupid people out there.
You're not wrong. But I mean, I guess, I don't know. Every time I've only voted in person once, and every time I vote, I generally know who I'm going to vote for. You know, I've never voted for a major party candidate president, I guess, outside of Bush, the first time I could vote. And so that's I'll go off on that on another time.
Oh, so that's why Trump lost.
And on the same side, people could say that's why he won the first time, right? Like, whatever. But the weirdest part about sports and politics is like you want people to, like, stick to sports and do a great job, and like that's what we tune in for. But also at the same time, like, they're the ones who have the most like camera time. They're the ones who have the most
influence,
and they have, their message can reach people better than, Sally from down the street. So it's this weird line. And I don't really give a bucket of piss about politics at all. So it's just like, I'm still going to watch the games. I don't care if they move it to Milwaukee or if they move it to Taiwan. Like, I'm going to watch the All-Star game. I love watching the All-Star game. So it just stinks that everything's getting so political. I think Pat or Kelly said that. It just sucks, man. Like, I think a lot of it, people want to get away from it. And again, I understand there are these big people, they have this big voice, but just like, I just wish I wish politics would just fucking go away.
So
this is the best way to say it.
I'm going to drop a truth bomb here, and then you guys can all weigh in on this. I am actually Mahone's father.
No. I'm glad you waited till the 6th episode, like, to kind of let everyone.
I'm glad you waited my whole life to tell me that.
So no, I'm gonna drop something here that, like, anybody with any common sense will say this is fucking retarded. Oh, did I say the R word? I'm sorry. Black Lives Matter. LeBron James, a lot of African American athletes are big time Black Lives Matter, and LeBron James promotes Black Lives Matter, and it's unfair, and he wants to sit out games or stop the season last year. And you could look all the stuff up. I can go off forever on LeBron James, and he tries to claim human rights issues and stuff with Black Lives Matter. Great. So LeBron James, the advocate for human rights issues with Black Lives Matter. Do you realize he has a multi was a fucking 9-figure deal, like hundreds of millions of dollars from fucking Nike, who makes their shoes in sweatshops in third world countries? Do you know LeBron James refused to speak out at the fucking atrocious civil human rights violations by China. China has like fucking concentration camps set up and shit. LeBron James says fucking nothing. So like, does all lives matter? Oh no, if it's benefiting me, it doesn't fucking matter. So you never see LeBron James ever talk about China and the atrocities that are going on there. You never see him talking about sweatshops where they're getting paid like 5 cents a fucking hour to make shoes for him. So I find the hypocrisy with professional athletes coming out and speaking. It's like, fuck, you guys don't give a fuck when it benefits you, but now you're lecturing us. I mean, this is fucking insanity. Somebody take the mic away from me now.
Well, like, I'm going to do a counterpoint. So like the whole dude, like, I can't think of his first name, but Morley, the old GM for the Rockets, when he came out against Hong Kong, he pretty much got, I think, told to shut up and fired. And that was like the whole Steve Kerr, I don't know anything else about any other country's politics kind of wagon, where it's like, I understand the aspect they only get talk about things they maybe know personally. So like LeBron being from Akron, he has a little more idea of what happens there as opposed to China, but more as like a league as a whole, they're like failed to recognize the seriousness of Hong Kong, what it was, which that's what always put a bad taste in my mouth for the league as a whole, because it wasn't just LeBron. You had Kerr, like not Stern, the guy that replaced David Stern, like bald dude, I can't even think of his name right now. But that all as a whole,
Adam Silver.
But as a whole, they all refuse to discuss the atrocities in China. But like, I mean, there's problems everywhere you go, but that one seemed pretty big at the moment.
And just a little bit more background on the NBA in China is like the NBA has invested heavily in building overseas markets, and the number one market overseas they invest in is fucking China. They have spent millions, probably billions on China, and they get tons and tons of fucking revenue from China.
Huge revenue. And you look at other modern sports like UFC, Zhang Lei, she's a 150-pound champ. like the UFC bumped her up on the main event card where typically they stack them in weights because she's from China. Like UFC is trying to tap into that Chinese market, and the NBA's their entire income at this point is the China market. Like
it's wild how big of the revenue coming from China goes into the NBA. It's fucking insane. So I mean, when I hear people say about Black Lives Matter, well, then you're going to turn the other way because a good percentage, a very good percentage of your salaries coming from China, so you do not give a fuck about any human rights violation whatsoever. And some of the atrocities over there are fucking insane. Weren't we just talking about I mean, this is just not too long ago, like a year or two ago. We're talking about fucking UCLA. What did they do? They stole some stuff in China, and they're gonna face like fucking life in prison or some shit. Mahomes, remember that shit?
I do now. Yeah, now that you say that, I had totally forgot about that little kind of international incident. I think that I'm guilty of this, and I think probably most Americans are. Is we are very focused on what we got going on. I don't think most Americans have a global view of what's going on. I'm very guilty of like, if it's not happening here, I don't give a shit. I mean, that's not the best attitude, but it's true. Like when I see things, it's, like all the terrible things that happen overseas, whether it's natural disasters or any of that stuff. It's like, I see it on the news and I'll feel bad for everyone's happening over there. And then then I'm like, all right, what's in the local news? Like what affects me today? And I think that's a pretty predominant attitude in the United States. I think that's why so many other countries hate our guts so much.
Well, like I think technically, if we go through like the world history and like even compare an individual in our country who's considered poverty still would be wealthy if you had to go to a vast majority of other countries. Which I'm not trying to say a poor person like life doesn't suck, but at the same time, it's like in perspective. If you're making 25,000 a year, you'd be rich in some places in Africa and South America.
So a good point you're making up, or not making up, stating, but is that
I make all my facts up straight off Wikipedia, boys.
Classic Kmart.
Facebook fact checker. Yeah,
I mean, we're living in the richest country, the richest time in history, and people still have things to complain about or whatever, being oppressed and all these different things. But what a lot of people don't know is the world itself is the entire world is still richer than it's ever been in history. And what people don't understand is like we're not getting poor. The media tries to put this percent that we're all going to poor. They say by 2050 we'll be like 4.5 times more richer than we are right now. So I mean, you can push recessions and all these different things, and they're all negative, but still, you look at our fucking society and go back like 500 years ago, they would fucking kill to be living the way we are.
Well, like even you go back 500 years ago, like as much as all of us want to kind of complain about cancel culture to a certain extent, like even the vast people that lose platforms, you go back 300 years, that guy would just get killed on the street.
Yeah.
Like the fact they just kind of like lose the ability to post on YouTube, like how much the violence has drastically gone down in the past 50 years, 100 years is an understatement that we don't recognize in, I think, a lot of our society.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Sports is a great example of how rich we've become. Like, I can't remember the exact, but like you look, Babe Ruth, obviously there's all sorts of things there because he was only playing white people, but arguably the greatest baseball player of all time, made like $60,000 a year. And that was like crazy money back then.
And 60,000 is different now then to now, but it still doesn't amount to the money that players are making now. Not even
guys making $30 million a year, it's crazy.
Well, you look back like Terry Bradshaw was a quarterback for the Steelers. He made such a low salary. He wanted to play in the Pro Bowl because it was an extra like $12,000 or something like that. That was like a huge incentive like 6 years ago in the modern NFL. Like you wanted to play in the Pro Bowl, you wanted to play in the Super Bowl, and they're all starting to like you get more money for it. And shit, if you like won the Pro Bowl MVP, you could get a car. That was huge. Like brand new vehicle.
Oh, it's huge. And I have only two words for you, Jay Marsh, that comes to Terry Bradshaw. System QB.
Glad the Steelers fan weighed in on that one.
No, I'm not. Honestly, I don't want to bash Terry Bradshaw. He just played with the most ridiculous defense in fucking NFL history. So he sure had to put that team on his back. No.
Yeah, two pretty good receivers too.
Yeah,
pretty good running back.
Anyways, the circle back here, our first circle back of the night. So, Ken, how do you feel about the most popular, maybe the best NBA player of all time, talking about human rights violations in America when it comes to his own race, but not giving a fuck about Asians in China and all the human rights abuses they go through, which is way worse than here.
Yeah, look, I take a political view on this stuff because I understand that side of things better than, all the what you guys are talking about from the sports side of things. I really think that everything has been manipulated, and Mahoney hit it on the head when he said, they have so much influence and everyone's watching them. So it's so dangerous with professional athletes, LeBron James, Katy Perry, entertainment moguls. It's so dangerous to even get to that point because your government and your political elite, they're not stupid. They fucking know. They know that people are listening to you, and if they can, get their little claws into you or their big claws into you, they can say any message that they want. And unfortunately, that's where we are right now. And I fucking hate that. I wish it was separated, but it's too juicy of an opportunity for the political elite and for your government to stay out of it. I don't know if that answers your question, but the LeBron James thing is definitely sickening. It's all bullshit. Now look, Black Lives Matter is such a touchy subject. Nobody can talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about it because they think, especially if you're white, like all of us are, you can't have an opinion on it. Well, here's the thing. We all agree Black lives actually do matter, and so do Asians and whites and Native Americans. Everybody's life fucking matters. But the Black Lives Matter movement has been so skewed and manipulated that it doesn't mean Black Lives Matter anymore. It's a political tool. It's a political engine.
So sorry, what I meant to do in this entire topic here is like to shift over to the big news of today that nobody's really talking about right now, and that is under Joe Biden, a Democrat, okay, very pro-China. I'm just kidding. Under Joe Biden, they're in open discussions for U.S. athletes to boycott the 2022 Olympics in Beijing, China, for 2022. So what do you guys think about that?
I mean, it's a bummer because I love the Olympics. I'm very pro USA, so I love when USA goes in and wins the most medals and dominates and everything. So I think that's a bummer. I mean, there was an Olympics that was boycotted years ago, probably before we were born, or maybe I can't remember the exact.
Was that the 80s with the wrestler whole ordeal where like somewhere in the Middle East they captured a whole bunch of people? That one, or is it Russia?
I feel like we boycotted Russia. I don't know. As for any historians listening, I'm apologizing. I'm butchering this. So
yeah, I just
you're welcome.
I just like how we're all trying to talk about racism as being white people, yet the U.S. never thought about boycotting the Olympics when there was in Nazi Germany.
Well, in fairness, back then, no one really knew what Nazi Germany was all about at that particular point in history. And I think even like, what am I defending Hitler here? Jesus. But
well, thank you.
But I think by that time the super terrible atrocities had yet to happen. Though he was always very, very racist. So you're right. We probably could have avoided that.
But I think it's a good point though. Like you go back to World War II, Nazi Germany, and you talk about the atrocities in China and stuff. It's like these people in these countries. We had one several years back. I can't remember which one. It was another country that had a bunch of human rights violations, and these fucking countries, even today, from World War II to now, watch fucking China cover up everything and make it look like everything's like there are no internment camps or whatever, although they exist every single year. Watch them cover up everything, make it look like hunky-dory, like everything's perfectly fine.
All right. So quick fact check. Sorry. So the U.S. boycotted the 1980 Olympics in the Soviet Union, and in return, Soviet Union boycotted the Olympics in LA in '84. Sorry.
Okay.
Googled it.
Thank you. Thank you to our Russia. Google master there. And there's a thing. The World Cup's scheduled to be in Qatar or Qatar or however you say that. And I mean, they have killed thousands of workers, like building these stadiums. And they're going to do this in the middle of the desert, like 120 degree temperatures every day. You got these, migrant workers that they're killing. So I would imagine hopefully people boycott that. I mean, the U.S. will boycott it because our men's team can never make a World Cup. So that's our way of boycotting.
You know, we think, you know, we were talking earlier how rich we all are, and we are. You know, I always say we're kings and queens, especially in this country of the world. It's insanity how we live, and maybe that's the point, is to enjoy that. It's like Mark said, sit back and enjoy your sports and kind of live in your own communities. You know, I'm trying to do that more, but it's just sickening for me to think about that. There is still a we'll call them a political elite, but people like Genghis Khan or Alexander the Great, they're out there and they don't give a fuck about countries, United States and civilization and stuff like that. They still want to conquer the world, and some of them unfortunately have a ton of influence, a ton of wealth, you know. But if you think that like the what were they called, the people that take over, you know, countries, different parts of the world and shit like that, if you think that they're gone just because they're in a history book, that they're really not. You know, there's people out there, and you could probably name some of them by name. I won't do it here because I don't want this to turn into a conspiracy theory, but I mean, when you got, most people can't wrap their heads around $1 million. Well, how about $1 billion? How about a fucking trillion? I even heard one country has like several quadrillion dollars. That would fill like the town of Deer Lodge. You know, that's an insane amount of money.
Insane amount of money, and we're gonna end the show there. No, just kidding.
Thank you guys. You guys have been great. Just I want to make sure you guys know that I wasn't defending Hitler there. I was just trying to history and perspective.
Mahoney defends Hitler.
It gives us a great moment of Jesse Owens winning in Nazi Germany. So go USA. Go ahead, J. Mars.
Maybe we failed to start a USA chant right there.
Actually, quick sidebar on that. I was at a country concert. The guy who sings Honky Tonk Badonka Donk. I can't remember his name right now.
Trace Atkins?
Trace Atkins. I was at a Trace Atkins concert in Great Falls, Montana. This is one of my most proud moments. And he had come out with some fairly patriotic song around that same time. And right as he was getting done singing it, I got a USA chant started at this country concert in Great Falls, and it took off. And it was like a very special moment for me. It's one of those things I've always wanted to do. Bucket list item.
Hi guys. I'm gonna keep going down here. The wagon's back the second time tonight.
Let's circle them wagons.
To continue on with this Georgia Law SB 202, one of the other big deals in the law was state and local governments are no longer allowed to send unsolicited applications, and third-party groups that send applications have new rules to follow too. The applications must be clearly marked as not an official government publication that is not a ballot. It must be clear state which group is sending the blank request. So, I mean, again, this is back to a lot of people talk about ballot harvesting, going to like a nursing home and harvesting a lot of ballots and things, or this idea of just sending ballots to people that don't want them or just completely unsolicited. That opens the door for so much fucking corruption and so many things. I don't understand the mentality of let's validate every single person, because again, last time I checked, there's a lot more people that are looking like us than there are people that are looking the opposite direction. So it's like, why is this a big ordeal if we want to verify who's voting or not? So what do you think about unsolicited ballots being sent to random people who don't even request them, Kelly?
I just think, look, if you really want to vote, it's not really that fucking hard. And, you know, you can have a little leeway for people that can't get out of their houses and stuff. But if you can't figure out how to vote, and you can't, you know, walk a block down to the place or do an absentee ballot, then maybe we don't want you voting in the election. You know, maybe how are you reading up on the issues and what one candidate believes versus the other if you can't even fucking figure out where your local library is to go vote? So I think it's a complete dumpster fire. I'm glad that they're cleaning it up. It should be easy to vote, definitely, but it shouldn't be so easy that you can cheat. You can take these. I mean, look, when this last election, I got probably 5-6 pieces of fucking political mail in the mail every single day. I mean, why don't we even just think about the trees? That's a good enough reason not to send out these fucking, you know, this information or these ballots, whatever. Make it easy enough for people to do it, but don't make it so stupid that it can be a rigged or cheated thing. Because a lot of people think that the election was rigged or cheated. No matter what your belief is, half the country or more thinks that it was a rigged or cheated election.
And and going on 2 points there. 1 point on that last point you made, people also in 2016 felt like that election was rigged because people just have so low faith in the voting system these days in America. The other point is like talk about how difficult it is to vote. So I was living in Pittsburgh, and a lot of cities are just like this. Our fucking place to vote, it was like right within my housing quarters. I lived in a village house, the housing complex or whatever. It was like a ton of townhouses and stuff. And to vote, I had to walk at the outside of my townhouse complex through the security gates and go less than like 10 yards and vote. So a lot of these cities, it's absolutely super, super fucking easy to vote. Mahomes.
Yeah, no, I like I said, they got the Dropbox thing here. I get my ballot in the mail typically. So I get like the big ballot pamphlet that tells me like everything that's going on, any candidate that's running, they can kind of do their own little write-up. That comes about a month before, then about 2 weeks before I get it, and you can fill it out and just drop it in the Dropbox. It's super easy. And then they actually have a tracking. So they kind of have this little QR code. When the guy picks it up, you can even watch your ballot get like counted out here. So I think it's super easy. It's super safe. I've never once like, oh man, someone's going to hijack my ballot and vote for something. I mean, because who cares? And maybe even like the ballot harvesting or whatever, like there could be a lot of people out there like me that just like, I'll vote because I really care about the stuff that affects me locally, right? Like national politics, it doesn't fucking matter who's the president. I think it doesn't matter at all. Like, guess what? I'm going to wake up, I'm going to die one day, and I'm going to pay more in taxes than I want to. And I have no control over any of that shit. But the local stuff I care about. So I think there might be a lot of people out there in terms of like sending ballots to people that just like don't give a shit about the presidential election because they think like me, it's been decided a long time ago who's going to win. It doesn't matter. Like, and in the states I've lived in, it's either been the Republican is going to win my state or the Democrat's going to win my state. I could vote for Mickey fucking Mouse. It doesn't
Mark,
matter.
and I just want to comment really quick. So I was going to say that too. It's all got to be brought back to the locales, your little city, your little county, whatever it might be. In Seattle, there should be, 100 different locales, Chicago, whatever. And that's the way the government was intended to be set up. It's supposed to be us at the bottom that have the control, and then up to the national level, like you just said, it doesn't fucking matter. Unfortunately, that's been flipped upside down a little bit. But I also agree, president to president, we own a couple businesses. I haven't been able to tell a change yet. Everyone's like, gas prices went up 12 cents. Who gives a fuck? I remember being a kid and the gas prices were $7 a gallon. I don't even know who the president was. It's like, you've had it pretty fucking good for even back into Obama's era. You've had good gas prices, but trust, they fluctuate just like inflation,
So I'm just going to go back to Mahomes for one last time. Tell us for the 50th time tonight about your little Dropbox.
Well, I'm just saying, I think that's part of Georgia's thing is they're like not allowing the drop boxes, which I think is fucking stupid. If you're going to make people wait in line to vote, guess what? People are going to not fucking vote.
Yeah, well, speaking of waiting in line, J Marsh is up, so shut the fuck up. Turn to huge asshole. All right, sorry. You have anything else to say?
Yes, I do. I would like to make sure that everyone knows that there is no evidence that the presidential election was rigged this year or any other year. No actual evidence by some fucking guy that on 4chan or Reddit. No actual real person with a fucking education has put anything out there that's believable.
And I would just like to say before we go to J Marsh, that's just his own opinion there, and most of us don't agree with that. All right, J Marsh.
No, I'm with Mahomes on this one. I haven't seen anything too crazy that hasn't happened before or that we don't do in other countries' elections that make me say that this one is rigged one way or the other.
You don't have ballot drops that fucking change the result of an election in the middle of the fucking night.
No, I'll be the only one that comes
Christ
on the left
almighty.
field. We should be able to vote online.
All right, go ahead. It's your show.
Thank you.
Sorry.
The J Marsh hour.
It's your mic. Sorry.
Hey, I just want to ask, did Mahoney mute himself or did you mute him, Pat?
No, I muted myself. My daughter is asking me some questions.
It's like Pat muted Mahoney.
Once he said the election is not rigged, that's bullshit. I just mute him.
He kicks me off the show.
All right, back to Jay. All right, let's go.
No, I mean at this point, I'm assuming most of us do our banking online because we're civilized people. I mean, I don't see why we shouldn't have a system where we can all vote online. Granted, the whole Obamacare system didn't really work out, but there's going to be people are going to take other people's ballots anyway. Russia's going to meddle. South Korea, North Korea is going to meddle anyway. China's going to meddle. Let's just vote online from the comfort of my fat ass lazy boy. I don't see what's wrong with it.
Now, I'm all for making voting as easy as possible, but online anything, hackers could hack the shit out of us. Like I may have just pissed somebody off on 4chan and he's gonna like leak nudes to me here in a couple weeks or something. Like online, don't trust. No me gusta.
I worked a lot of technology in Alaska, sorry, and I'm gonna mute Mark. Sorry, I'm gonna mute Montgomery here for a second, and I'm gonna actually agree with J-Marsh on this one. There's so much more shit we could do fucking online. There's so many verification things. Like look at fucking Facebook, their verification and shit. I get kicked off there all the time for my views. I'm just kidding. But I think there is a way. I think the verification online you can. My thing about online, it's my biggest point. It's like you can fucking track online. There's a data trail. There's a fucking data trail when you do online stuff. There's always where these unsolicited ballots and stuff where people just send them in. There's no verification or anything at all. You drop off in your red box drop like Mahomes does, and it just goes to the video store or whatever. And
he hasn't voted in the last 12 years. He's just been giving it to his red box. Just keep on. Oh fuck!
Actually, I just go. We have a couple blockbusters out here still, and I just toss it in there because again, my vote doesn't matter. Remember that.
I guarantee there's someone that confuses their like latest DVD return or red box return with their ballot.
Hey, look, and you talk about how online could be manipulated. Well, weren't some of these Dominion voting machines online? Not to bring that up, but I mean, I don't think the election was as cut and dry. And I agree on both sides of the spectrum because who gives a fuck? Unless you're running for politics or in politics or something, it's only going to put a negative impact on your life to sit here and fucking worry about what the people that are doing politics and the political elite and all that. It's only going to put a negative impact on your life. But I mean, when you think about it, there's too many fucking questions. There's always too many fucking questions to ask. And that's why I don't think it's that cut and dry to say, oh yeah, this, some people say this election was a complete cheat. Some people says it wasn't a cheat at all. I just don't think it's that cut and dry. I think there's too many different, there's 50 fucking states, and we all run things differently. And there's a lot of stuff out there that doesn't make a lot of sense. And there's a lot of stuff that does make a lot of sense. But I know that's not the point of the podcast. I just want to put my 2 cents in there on the election.
Well, that's like, I'm going to add on to Kelly's point. That's where I've always agreed that the localized government should be stronger because policies made in DC are going to maybe have more of a intercity effect of where they should be like a policy there. But you can't govern the rural areas, which is like the Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota. They can't be governed the same way you should govern Chicago or the northern part of Illinois. And there should be a difference. We can't have a baseline for law. I mean, you can, but at the same time, the local government, it's going to be different everywhere you go. And I think we fail to realize the impact of some policies made, how they affect either an inner city or a country area, because you have to govern them differently.
If every state in this union is as diverse as the union itself, and then not even the states, go to the towns, the cities, the counties, they're so fucking different. You got bumpkin, redneck county in Montana over here versus, whatever county, Cook County, Chicago or whatever. They're pretty fucking different. So maybe they should govern for, what their own local problems are. People aren't stealing cows in Chicago, and we don't have 3 gangs in Deer Lodge, Montana or whatever, killing people.
Yeah, so I'm going to just segue to a different topic here for a little bit. We're going to go
Dominion voting machines.
We're going to talk about, I was researching the other day. And
way more safe than voting online from your own computer that I could probably hack from mine.
But
Did he mute himself or?
But the Dominion machines are online anyways. Jesus, is he a fucking Terminator right now?
He's trying to hack in all of our accounts. How did I lose all my money?
I think Mahoney works for the fucking CIA. I've seen those eyes before.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
We're going to talk about something a little bit different here. We're going to talk about prison rape.
Oh, way to go wider with the subject.
So I was researching this topic yesterday. We're actually doing this.
Oh, this is really the topic. Okay.
Oh, we're going for this. Nice.
Yeah, we're going for this tonight, boys. And back in the 90s, it seemed like prison rape was a big deal. But then I've read topics where federal prisons, they don't have as much rape as state prisons. And it seems like the rape's a lot more in the state system where there's people grouped together and whatnot. So, Jay Mars,
so are you talking like a federal prison, like she's in Deer Lodge, or like a privatized prison?
Well,
which is also
I mean, Deer Lodge is still a state prison.
prison is federal.
Federal's like in Colorado, California and stuff, but you also have state prisons there. But I mean, I'm saying what I've read online, it's like the state not the federal prisons and the maximum security prisons. It seems like rape never happens, but then you start looking at the state level, it seems like it's still pretty crazy. What do you think about that?
We gotta go from Holmes on this one. I thought this was always a federal prison.
Now, federal prison to be more like your like tax evasion, or there's other certain like federal crimes. This is like there's all sorts of criminals at the Montana State Prison, but I can say with utmost confidence that there's rapes going on at every prison in the world.
Experience talking?
And it's really like there's kind of a code of ethics that there's certain groups of people that there's just kind of a blind eye turns towards, and the federal people don't have as much. The code of ethics is if you mess with kids, you're in trouble in prison. Yeah. So any sort of pedophile or anything, they serve hard time, like real hard time. And those are the people that, maybe the correctional officers will maybe turn a blind eye to things, or maybe they'll take a quick break when things are going on. And there's just not that kind of person. And like, there's certainly bad criminals, but not like those kind of criminals end up to be more in a state system. And they're the number one targets, like pedophiles for sure.
So, like, just to go back what you're saying there, like, so I've read a lot, and there's a lot of documented cases where former inmates and prisoners would say, like, man, he wasn't a pedophile or whatever. But they would say the guards kind of had that mentality. It's like either you man up or, oh, you get raped. Well, that means you're homosexual. Do you think the guards are that complicit in it? Or what power do the guards even have to even enforce or stop something like that?
I mean, it's hard to say, like, back in the day, back in the Shawshank days, there's certainly like there's a lot more rules and regulations now, and there's more. Yeah. But if you're at a state prison that's understaffed and underfunded, I mean, that the correctional officers are the ones in there dealing with people. So, and if they're certainly undermanned and understaffed, like there's only so much they can do.
Like every state prison.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, not to talk Montana politics, but they comically underfund the state prison that is the namesake of this podcast. So, yeah, it's really, they can control, like they can protect you if they like you, but no one likes pedophile. I feel pretty comfortable saying that. Like, there's not anyone that's like, oh boy, I sure hope this pedophile just has a really nice time in prison, right? So,
yes, for the record, I don't think anybody watching this podcast is ever going to be surprised based on the title that we segue to prison politics and stuff.
I know. That's the thing. We're you never know where we're going. We're a multifaceted podcast.
We will end up in the prison no matter what.
And I mean, that's why you tune into the Prison City podcast to eventually hear about rape and if correctional officers are complicit in that rape. And sometimes there's just not enough bodies to go around. And like the thing is, the prisoners have a lot of time on their hands, so they are creative. They're not, maybe they weren't smart that they got into prison, but they have a lot of time to come up with like creative ways to get at somebody that they want to get at, and they have nothing but time out there to find a way to do it. So they know the blind spots, they know how to make things work. And especially if it's someone they don't like, it's crazy how when someone gets brought in to intake, they all know what they did. They all know what they're in for before they get there. So there's plenty of guys who will get their arms broken. If you're a pedophile, they'll do this little thing where they're standing on the other side of the fence right next to this post, and they'll reach out and be like, hey man, we'll take care of you, you're gonna be safe in here. And the guy will reach in, like the pedophile will reach in, and then they'll bust his elbow on the post. So like it's and that happens, man. Like that shit just happens.
It's fucking crazy, because that's the next point I want to bring to you is like how the fuck do they know?
I don't know
what a pedophile if you're a pedophile going in, how would you protect yourself from them not knowing?
I don't know. And I mean, like, it makes more sense now because there's there's access to the internet for some prisoners. So like there's probably one or two guys that are like, hey, find out who's coming in and like what they're in for. But back in the day, like when internet wasn't a thing, when we were growing up, I don't know how they knew. I don't know if it was something that there was someone kind of feeding them, whether it was their lawyers or telling them, hey, this is who you got coming in. They always know, though. I have no idea how they know, but they always know.
Well, I'd say guards, because like if you feel you have someone who did something horrible and he's in there for 25 years anyway, why wouldn't he spend his time doing something like that that would consider kind of justice?
That's the point. I want to say real quick, J-Mars, that's the point that he's making, is like a lot of these guys are in there for fucking ever, so the guards had to deal with them every single day, no matter what. So the guards, in a lot of ways, kind of let them get away with more than someone that's just brand new. Kelly?
It's just that loose lips sink ships. Almost nobody nowadays can keep a secret or not say something. And I'm sure prison guards, inmates, all of them are they talk just like us out here. And I want to go back to what Mark said. These inmates are creative, or they have all day long to think and think and think. Some of them are so fucking insanely creative. So I just want to share two short stories. I walked through the prison. I got a tour of it because of an improv show we did a few years ago, and it was fucking fascinating and super scary at the same time. But they're telling me how this guy in maximum security, out of he made like a Kleenex box and he gave it as a gift to one of the female guards. And when she opened it, it like exploded and threw confetti out. And it's just like they get absolutely nothing in maximum security, right, Mahoney? Like a mattress and some toilet paper or something. But he managed to make this thing because he has all fucking day long to think. And when it comes to spreading messages and secrets and stuff, she's telling me they have things where they'll just take rope, or little strings that they make out of their bed sheets, their bed linen, and they'll throw it all the way across maximum security where they never come out of their cells except for an hour a day. And it will go into another cell and they'll get the note and they'll throw it back. And that's how they communicate, just on this fucking system that none of us would ever be able to understand or create,
Yeah, that's what they call that, kites. They're throwing kites to the other inmates.
Wow.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah. So, anyways, getting back on topic here with SB 202 here in Georgia. Going back to Mahone's talking about ballot drop boxes here. Just taking us off of PBS NPR source here. Secure absentee ballot drop boxes did not exist a year ago. Again, keyword did not exist a year ago in Georgia, are now officially part of state law. So they're actually making drop boxes part of state law. Oh, that's so fucking racist. But without some new changes, the law now requires all 159 counties to have at least one drop box. So now the law is requiring counties to have a drop box, which clearly limits people's capacity to vote. Holy fuck, this is racist. Caps. The key here that a lot of liberals and CNN especially focus on is the key here is that it caps the number of boxes at one per 100,000 active voters, for one for every early voting site. Muslim side early voting. So I mean, Georgia is doing essentially something that they've never done in state history, which is having all these drop boxes now signed into law. They're just sitting there saying that we're going to cap the number of drop boxes per county. So how the fuck is that racist for someone to put things into the law that were never ever existed into law, but put certain regulations on it, almost like marijuana. Is it racist that Colorado decided to endorse marijuana now, but they have restrictions on it? Anyone?
Well, I'm gonna come up with a different so there's these drop boxes. I'm assuming they all look the same, have like government official put envelope here kind of thing. How can you prevent someone from replicating that same box, putting it on a different street corner, and then collecting votes that way?
Well, I was going to ask a question too that regards that, Mahoney, because you've done this Dropbox thing. Where are they just located randomly, or are they like in front of the library, or what?
Yeah, it's typically a public. I always drop mine in front of a library, so it's on some sort of public land. And again, you get yours, get it scanned, saying, "Hey, we got this," and you can watch when your vote is counted on the camera at this. So it's really secure. I've never had any issues with it. That's interesting, Pat, that you bring up. So they didn't have them, and this law says they're going they had them last year, or now they're going to have them, but they're going to limit them. We have them everywhere. They should. The idea is to make it as easy as possible, to not limit.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, just
I definitely don't like the 1 per 100,000. That doesn't seem to balance out. You think there'd be 1 for 10,000.
Hey guys, can we take a time out really quick? I want to bring in our special data expert that has just shown up hour into this podcast, James T. Tilley. This episode is sponsored by Hanukkah. So Tilley, we're going to talk about some stuff that you don't know about. Say hi, Tilley.
Hi, Tilley.
Hey, Jim.
And he was actually the ballot that I dropped in my Dropbox this year. Go Jaguars, they're saying.
What? Nobody said that.
All right, well, thank you, Tilley. He's going to bring me a beer. Why don't you head upstairs to Kelly? I think, Kelly, do you have a bottle opener for this?
Yes, I do.
Sorry, we're going off topic here. So you don't care about unverified ballots going to random drop boxes, and they should just
Of course
drop
I do.
them off.
Why'd you say Jaguars? You totally caught me off guard.
What did I involve? Talking to Mahomes, you don't
Right.
think you don't need to be verified.
Fuck
just
off,
drop
I'm
them in
leaving.
a fucking box. Hey.
Again, I've told you the process. It's verified when you do it here. So I've never once just said, "Here, let's create your own fucking thing and drop it off, and every vote will count." I just say you should make it easy, and if you do the verification process that we do here, not saying ours is perfect, but it's pretty damn good.
Okay,
So how does that work though? The verification process, explain that really quick.
Yeah, he hasn't yet.
So
This is interesting.
They pull in, basically they tell you, it's if you really want to look into it, it'll say, okay, if I drop off at this time, we have people coming every 2 hours, right? And so then you have all your information's on there, including your email. And so you can check, hey, I dropped my ballot box in at 4:30. It's supposed to be picked up at 6. When it goes from here, there's a bunch of different counting locations in this county that I'm in. And so then you'll get it scanned saying it's been here. And then you'll get another scan, and there's cameras in there this whole time that you can follow your ballot if you want to. And cameras in there the whole time. And then it's the last scan is your vote was counted. Do you want to review your votes?
And do you state that that's how you'll be voting, or how did you get your ballot? Do you say I want a Dropbox ballot, or how does that work?
Yeah, when you fill so I had been in Montana for forever, and so when I was like, okay, I'm probably definitely a resident out here, I would like to vote on local things that affect me. Yeah, you can just say I want to do a mail-in ballot, I want to vote in person, or I'd like to do Dropbox.
Mahoney or Tilley thinks that's really interesting. He says,
"You know what? I think he's really interesting, and I mean that."
All right, so we're going to confirm there that Mahomes believes that anybody can drop off a
Opinions
ballot
and no
anytime
things.
without verification. Let's move on here then.
You have to register. I mean, I'm sure you could register somewhere else, but for me, when I got my license in this state, that's when I was able to register. So they had my ID because they had my license.
I don't know if I trust a guy that worships Adolf Hitler though.
And again, I'd like to make it clear that I was not worshiping Adolf Hitler. I was trying to put some historical perspective on the time.
So
I can go and state right now, I hate Adolf Hitler and everything he stands for. I'm glad he's dead. If he were alive, I'd kill him myself.
But on the other hand, do you believe in prison rape?
just, keep,
Like a face.
just keep kiting this around.
Hey,
I,
but let's. Oh, so go ahead.
Do I believe that prison rape is a thing? Yes, I definitely believe in every prison in the whole world, someone's getting raped, just some more than others.
I want to circle back to one point that I really originally wanted to make. We're talking about unsolicited ballots. You think unsolicited ballots is a good thing or a bad thing, or what do you think about that? Just send ballots to whoever.
I think that's really stupid. I think you should, if people really want to vote, let them vote. Like, there's how many commercials and, like Kelly said, pieces of mail are we peppered with? Like, if you send all that to somebody and they still are like, no, I have no interest in this, then guess what? They didn't want to vote.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Jay Marsh now, who's living in the jungle right now.
The jungle
Yeah.
of Argentina. Let's go back to that.
Yeah. Let's circle the wagon down to Argentina for a minute.
All the wagons, or just 3 of them, or what are we doing right now?
Singular. He said circle the wagon, so just one, one wagon.
Oh, wait, time out. Is that Tony Oh, it's. Oh my God. Tilly died 9/11. God damn.
Tilly did 9/11. You saw
Oh,
it?
sorry. Tilly did that.
Tell you that.
That is all.
Go ahead. That's it.
Okay, circle that wagon. Let's go.
Let's circle this wagon. All right.
I think we should be able to.
I
absolutely
forgot
we
what
should be able
wagon
to
he's
vote
supposed to
online.
even be circling at this point.
Same.
It's the one he's riding on, driving backwards right now.
All right.
All you, Pat.
Again.
New topic.
All right. Okay. Based again. This is based on PBS and NPR. One of the biggest challenges in the bill would expand early voting access for most counties and adding in additional mandatory Saturday. And so, okay, this is my point though. Back to Mahogany. There is like, it sounds like what they're doing. I'm just reading this purely off of PBR and NPR, which just reports facts for the most part.
PBR?
PBR. I hear not only do they make a pretty okay beer, I hear they have very reliable.
The PBR news source.
Thanks
I
to
would
our new
follow
sponsor,
that news
PBR.
source.
I would follow them into war.
Hey, our sponsor's getting a little jealous over here.
The Heineken sponsor.
Yes. Speaking of Germany, Heineken makes a great beer.
I hear Hitler loved Heineken.
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
I don't know that. I'm not like his best friend or anything, so he could have. I don't know.
All right, I'm quitting this topic. This is fucking stupid. Basically, I'll sum it up for you. This is why the MLB All-Stars canceled in Georgia. Georgia basically has put a state law in to incorporate every single voting technique or anything that did not fucking exist before 2020 COVID. They've basically made a law to make all those voting techniques exist now, regardless of the situation. So that's what the fucking bill is about, and that's what they're boycotting. Kelly.
I said it at the beginning of the podcast. I just keep politics out of the fucking sports, and that's all I'm going to stick to. It's just like we have to agree on something to live as a civilized, nation. We're so split down the middle. We don't need another fucking thing to be split over. Let's come together and enjoy a baseball game and not talk about politics. And I don't know again whose fault that is. It seems like the powers to be. I read an interesting quote today by one of the past presidents. I wish Truman or something. I wish I could remember exactly who, but it just said, people, something about, now it's escaping me.
Honestly,
how high are you?
Oh gosh.
It sounds like a pretty powerful quote. Like, it would honestly unite this divided nation we live in right now.
Why don't we call this just the White Privilege Prison Rape Podcast?
Is that going to be the title of this one? Because I'd imagine it'd get a lot of hits.
It was something essentially how people would be fucking fine. People have always been fine, and then politics came into everything, and it fucks everything up. How politics just comes in and ruffles the feathers and does whatever the hell they want, and that's exactly what's going on. But can you stop it? I don't fucking know. these entertainment industries and Major League and everything, they got so much power. It's too juicy of a fucking
Yeah, and that's why I agree with what Kelly's saying. Is like comes to the politics. Is like I just read that entire thing off of the PBR beer website. It was actually NPR. If Joe Crowder, if you're watching tonight, but essentially what I saw. Geez, did Tilly somehow show up in Seattle? I just heard one of their beer when I looked up.
Oh no, and I'm in San Diego, so he wouldn't be in Seattle at all.
But what I'm reading here though is just based on the what I saw on NPR and PBS is like basically what I've seen is that Georgia actually put a law in place to expand voting because they're putting a lot of laws in place where again COVID changed things so Georgia, Washington, Montana, every state changed things for COVID. But Georgia's basically putting laws in place that makes a lot of those things permanent, but with certain restrictions. So that's what I've seen so far from what I've actually read on the site. So how do you think that's worth boycotting an all-star game for basically expanding voting but not doing the exact same voting rules as say like California?
Who made this decision? Who made the decision to move the All-Star game? The commissioner or
the commissioner of baseball did. So basically what happened, he took complaints or ideas from GMs, players. He did a survey, a bunch of different things. So the commissioner ultimately made the decision. It was not anybody else. But there were players within baseball that were going to boycott it and whatnot. And Mahomes, you want to go more into that detail there?
Yeah, and I mean it was eventually, it came to the time to like make a decision. And for me, this all came down like this big thing in Georgia happened while I was a little off the grid in Idaho with some dear friends of mine. So I wasn't really tied into the news. So I was really surprised to come back and hear there was all sorts of like rumbling about moving the All-Star game. And so I didn't fully understand it. And so it kind of built to this fever pitch as things do these days, right? If people get on it and they know that like my voice is heard because I have social media or whatever. So it got higher and higher. And then, yeah, that happened. And I guess Colorado. So it's really close to Montana if you guys want to check out the All-Star game now.
So glad.
Pretty cool
So
experience.
glad we could support voting for minorities to going to the whitest city in Major League Baseball. Great decision by MLB. Jay Marsh, with your bamboo tattoo there, what do you think about all this?
Well, I think we should push for recreational marijuana legalization across federally. So I think this is a good decision on MLB's baseball part. Jesus, that's bad. Like,
what in the fuck?
Hey, Jay Marsh, did you smoke all those leaves behind you? Jesus.
He said he decided like I need to be as high as humanly possible to make my stance for weed. That way I don't know.
That's why it's been illegal for so long. No one could make a case for it. They just start laughing.
I think it's hilarious. I'm the most anti-law person alive, yet I'm in the brink of moving in the next couple months to the most laws in the entire country in Pennsylvania.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah.
You Quaker.
You know what? As I've sat here, I've changed my mind. If I'm doing my fucking taxes online, I should be able to vote online.
Yeah, you do your banking online. Why not vote online?
I mean, the only issue I have is, like I said, there's like, how long did it take the people to find the hackers that leaked all those celebrity nudes? So like, we could be 3 years into the term of a presidency and be like, actually, like 100 million of those votes didn't count, but whatever. It's all make believe bullshit right now anyway. So who cares?
I agree on 2 points. Though. I was like, number one, the Dominion machines and the electronic machines that I vote on you did Dropbox. You did drop your ballot off at Redbox. So but the machines that like if you're like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, like I was, that was like 12 years ago. We were doing electronic voting 12 years ago, which is, how do they file that? Based on the internet. So we've already technically been doing it. There's a data trail. So there's a data trail. You can definitely hack the fucking data trail for sure, without a doubt. But But, and this is the big point I want to make, is I like big butts, I cannot lie.
Other brothers can't.
Saw that joke
When a
coming.
girl
That was
walks
so
in-
telegraphed.
Well, guess what? The people who listen will not see it coming. So
But if you can hack that, if it's so easy to hack voting machines online or doing voting online, then why would anybody ever put their fucking credit card into an online machine ever? PayPal or whatever. So it's like online security stuff. I mean, you can get to a point. It's still like fuck. We're still like the U.S. government. We're still like, I mean, we're still at that point where it's like we should be able to defend against cyber attacks and stuff. Because if the U.S. government could do the FBI files and everything online, why can't we vote on it? We can do credit cards online. Why can't we vote on it? And I just like the digital paper trail, the non-paper trail, actually, the digital trail of like trailing a bet to say, okay, this person voted. But there's always going to be a way that you can fucking hack anything with technology. To hack an entire election, I don't know.
I mean, and I guess you'd probably have to have it, like put in your social security, and then it would verify that you are a registered voter. And then obviously there's going to be some sort of flag. If I go to log in and someone, like, it says you've already voted, like, okay. So then there's some sort of online fraud department. Like, there's a way they could do it, probably.
Yeah.
The more I think about it, it's funny because I'm so like paranoid. I hesitate to put my social security number anywhere electronically. But when it comes tax season, I'll just fucking have all my fucking information because I want my money back. So
yeah. So on another point I wanted to make here is I watched this Twitter feed, this guy, this video just talking about the divorce, and he went off and off and off. And then at the end of the video, it's like a minute long video. It's like, yes, I guess you could say it basically lost fucking everything. So talking about voting here, does anybody know that the women's suffrage, everybody knows about the women's suffrage, women's right to vote? Do you know that there are statistics out there that said at the time that 90% of women either did not want to vote or they did not care to vote at all? Does anybody know about that stat?
Yeah, I just saw that same thing just recently.
I mean, that doesn't mean they shouldn't have the right to vote.
Well, should they?
Well, I mean, what was the polling data?
Because again, that's different. Historical perspective, I guess, is my jam for the day. Like, it's very different times back then than it is currently.
Yeah. Well, you remember how accurate polling data is? Let's just flashback to 2015. Hillary was supposed to win in a landslide. Polling data.
Oh fuck! Good 2020. Fucking even with the rigged election, still shit. The polls are way off.
It sounds like J Marsh was polling himself while he said polling data.
Well, it is such a giant, important thing to most people, or a lot of people in this country, that you just gotta do it right. And, if you can get your credit card hacked, which I'm sure that everybody on this panel has, or something else, your email hacked. Fuck, I had Yahoo. Remember a couple of years ago when Yahoo just completely imploded. It's just, how do you trust that? And again, I know we're in new times, technology, things are getting bigger and better, but it's just like, you have to give people a peace of mind. You have to give everybody a peace of mind that this is what it is,
And for the viewers at home, I just want to not to do the mahogany thing here, but I had a bigger point about that 90% of women that did not want to vote, but it got lost in Jay Marsh's fucking jungle there.
Well, no, that's a really interesting thing, Pat. If you can continue on that, I don't remember all the details of that, but it was interesting to read about.
Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting. I don't ever think that women should not have the right to vote or anything like that. That's insanity. But it was just kind of an interesting thing back then when you talk to. I mean, long story short, here we're gonna go down a whole other fucking trail that I'm not going to go down right now. So let's stick to rape in prison. J Marsh, go ahead.
Given the circumstance, I may or may not be for it, but I will. Period.
Wow.
How is rape in prison even a topic? Like, did you just read an article today or something?
No, yesterday I
question.
was hungover as fuck yesterday. I just tried reading about rape in prison.
As that's a pretty typical hungover activity for, I think, most Americans. Like, oh man, I'm feeling pretty terrible. I guess at least I'm not getting raped in prison. Let's read about that.
So anybody though, have you guys ever had a dream where you just fucking woke up and you're like in jail or prison, you're just like scared out of your mind?
Yes, 100%.
No, not one bit.
No. Never have I ever. No.
Never? God.
Just the Keller brothers. Makes sense.
Yeah, that's a scary topic. I did have a dream, Pat, once where I was like in this basement cell, and my cellmate was definitely a rapist, and it was all fucking dark. It wasn't a dream; it was a nightmare. You had to like crawl out of this tiny window to get out of your cell, just for like lunch break and everything. It was fucking terrible. And anyways, I can relate to anybody that's been raped in prison now.
Kelly, do you remember what you were in for in your dream? Like, what crime did you commit?
I think it was rape.
I'll be back.
Oh,
I'll be back. Then we're gonna wrap things up.
Oh
Perfect.
shit!
There you
That's
go.
only number one. It's gonna be
Yep.
11:30 here soon.
so to our fans listening, that must mean we're at the halfway point.
Well, Pat said he's gonna have an interesting guest on next week. Don't want to reveal anything, but I look forward to the special guest podcast because they tend to get less deep into politics and COVID and shit.
But more to theater than theater once more, than constantly 25 more minutes of theater.
Yeah, I think that tends to be like, all right, we're gonna hit you with some super serious stuff, and then like we'll watch Mark do his best to not say anything controversial, and then we'll jump into some theater on the next episode.
Yeah, because I can talk about Enigma for days like we did last week. I mean, that could be a 5-part series, like someone said, but when it comes to COVID and shit, I mean, you're just repeating everything you hear, and it's one-sided or the other. And yeah, let's stick to Enigma.
That's truly the like you had mentioned, like it's one or the other. Like that's the biggest problem with politics. It's a two-party system, and it's like we live in a gray world, so you can't just pick like I'm this party. I agree with most of their stuff, but some of the stuff I don't like. Well, this other party I like a little bit, but I hate most. And like it's fucking so dumb.
Yeah, and I told Pat earlier, I've told you guys too, that I am willing to sit down with anybody, because fucking, not to go off on the social media stuff again, but someone could be so fucking tough and have such opinions on Facebook, but then it's like, God, that's a nice person. Like, why do they put that out there? Do they really want to alienate half the country, on either side of the spectrum?
But Kelly, as you know, like people that I post stuff and we talked about this a while ago. I don't know if you talked about this lately though. We've at Keller Brothers Production, we worked our asses off. I'm still working my ass off on this horror film, and we had actors and actresses that are still supposed to fucking post-production audio for this film, because we all said from the beginning it's all post-production audio. So I make a few fucking Facebook posts that do not go with liberal mainstream ideology, and they fucking quit the film. That's where we're at. Really?
I mean,
yeah, unfortunately, not with everyone, luckily, but unfortunately, that's where we're at. And I don't know if it's a two-way street anymore. It's hard to have a dialogue with anybody that disagrees with you anymore.
Like,
I just say don't lose friends over politics, because you're literally losing friends over something you have no control over. It's so dumb.
This is my thing is like, don't ever fucking fear to say your truth. Never, ever. If somebody wants to hold a grudge against you, if Jay Morris wants to hold a grudge against me because I don't want to smoke marijuana with him, then fuck you. No, but these people, and again, I probably manipulated the situation. These people that want to boycott people off of a fucking Facebook post, seriously? Are you like 5 years old?
Yeah, and that's a little bit ridiculous, because I mean, some of the stuff that I've seen, I could boycott. All of us could boycott a lot of people, just like shut the fuck up. But I guess down deep, I know that that's not really how people are. It's like, I know this person. I went to high school with them, or I see them at the bar. They come to our shows or whatever. It's just, Facebook is just such a toxic fucking world. And I think we've talked about that a lot in these shows.
And
Well,
again,
that's why I'd
check us
agree
out
with-
on Facebook, please. Facebook is one of our main marketers. Like, check us out there. Total piece of shit. Been one of the worst things for humanity, in my honest opinion. But please check us out. Facebook Prison Podcast.
J
Well,
Marsh.
even more like
J
Facebook,
Marsh,
Twitter.
your name there,
Oh,
does that mean you smoke weed 9 hours a day, 11 days a week?
Yeah, that's what Tilly did 9/11 means. I'm blitzed all the time.
Well, I'm glad you cleared that up for us.
It was an innocent question, man. Sorry,
Well-
you were gonna say something, J Marsh?
Yeah, so weed smoke does melt steel. New fact for you.
Hey, sorry guys,
Oh,
I gotta get
Nice.
off.
That
here.
was a deep joke. Good. It took me a second to get in on that. Okay.
Sorry, Moans. I gotta get off this podcast. I gotta go on Facebook and apologize to my high school Spanish teacher.
Muy excelente, Patricio.
We were so a segue here. We were actually in the same Spanish class
Yes,
With
we
that-
were.
with that stupid
Segue.
with that stupid fucking cunt.
I remember you go in the first day and like I'll never forget the first day because it's like, all right, what's it going to be like trying to learn this new language? And she walks in and she keeps like, so she doesn't introduce herself as like in English at all. She walks in and keeps saying siéntense, levántense over and over until like someone figures out that like levántense means stand up and siéntense means sit down. And I was like, is that how this whole thing's going to be? Is she just going to say 2 words until like we eventually guess it? Weirdest intro to a class I've ever had.
That's how it was for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, even if you remember right. And when we were in high school, these are hour and a half block periods. So that was a lot of like, what the fuck is going on all the way through September, you know?
And I just remember like, if this is going to be like, I'm for sure going to fail Spanish. Like, I just kept guessing wrong and trying to give her a high five. Like that's, we never learned that in Spanish.
Levante.
Just start clapping.
Yeah.
We're starting to lose J Marsh. She's fading into his background there.
That second day, Kelly, when she came up, when she started saying those things over and over, I just stood up and made out with her thinking like, that's what I learned. But
I'm pretty sure Levante meant fucking vagina.
Hey, what was your grade in Spanish?
it was a C.
Let's see. Oh, we got one thing
I
in
got a-
common.
I think I got a B. But get it because like I kissed her, so she's saying yes. See, that's the joke. Ah, fuck it. Whatever.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, let's round them horses and them carriages.
All right. Let's round this up. Mahogany. Last thoughts on HB 202 in Georgia.
I just think it proves the level of like I don't give a shit about what happens in not my state. Like I care that if like there's something that truly is suppressing voters' rights, and again, like we kind of talked in circles on this bill, like I think voting for actual like true American citizens should be as easy as possible. I just really don't like I'm not personally affected by it. And again, maybe that's just like me being super selfish and just being very American about it. But like, I'm not even remotely close to Georgia. I've been to Georgia twice. I'm certainly never going to vote in Georgia. So like, I don't like super care. Maybe I should more, and maybe that's like an issue. But I don't. I'd love to have the All-Star game in my hometown.
All right. Jay Marsh.
Voting should be online. I convinced Mahoney, so I feel like that's a win for America.
It was, that's the beauty of having these open conversations. Just like I took a second while we were on a different subject. It was like I did some pros and cons in my head, and it's like, yeah, if I'm giving out my Social Security to whoever the hell's doing my taxes online, I'll probably just go ahead and vote online too. Sometimes it's just simple.
And that's the beauty of these conversations. It's not like Twitter text or Facebook text. It's not like trying to read dialogue through an email. You can kind of see the emotion, the jokiness, the seriousness, and like voting online. Like I bank online, so it's like if I'm willing to like have my money there, like why wouldn't I vote online? Period.
Yeah. So let's just circle back to Mahomes really quick here and talk about the prison, Turkey Pete at the old Montana State Prison. What do you have to say about that?
Turkey Pete's the kind of guy that you don't want to run into in a dark alley for sure. And I think we all do our best to try and forget about Turkey Pete every day. And he just is such a devil inside of us. He keeps coming back up. That's all I have to say about that.
All right. Kelly, final words on this topic.
Well, I just want to say Turkey Pete's actually dead. So therefore, with all the voter suppression, he probably somehow voted in the last election. I just honestly, I feel like I want to live that life where I just, really worry about my own community because that's like my happy place, my temple. That's where I live. But I just feel like you can't completely ignore everything because like it's dominoes, like they said, one state joined this class action lawsuit about the voter fraud and everything. Then before you know it, there's 19 states on it. If one state does one thing, it seems like it happens in the rest, or at least the rest that are their color, blue or red. But I just think these dominoes, when they fall, they're going to affect everyone. And that's why I take concern with it. But on the flip side, what can you fucking do in our situation right now? Mahoney's 100% right. What can you do? And it's really not much. It's like I either go out and run for politics. And even if you run for politics, what the fuck can you do then? You're only one tiny vote in this huge pool. And yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it affects us and there's not much that we could do about it. So that's a negative way to end it. But focus on your communities, make your lives better, make your families better, your businesses better, whatever, coworkers. And that's all I got to say about that.
And there probably is a lot of people that went into politics with like the right attitude and like really good thoughts in mind. But guess what? Like everyone's got a price, or someone will get their hooks in you. Someone will find out something bad about you. And then guess what? Your motives aren't so positive anymore. So it does suck, but that's what it is. Money rules the world and none of us are ever going to be rich enough to make those decisions. Anyway, please swipe up, support us on Facebook. It's pretty much our only social media.
Hey, especially our Spanish teacher in high school.
Yes. I'm certain she has listened to every second of every episode.
And Mahoney too is sounds negative, but it's a positive thing. We only have how many more years to live on this planet? Are things really going to change if the people at the top of the political chart really have all this fucking power and stuff? Can we do a single thing about it in our lifetime? Probably not. So it's like make the lives around you right now better, because those are the people that are gonna outlive you and hopefully continue to make a difference like we try to do.
Absolutely. And if you try to explain like American politics to somebody, like an alien, like the presidential politics, you'd be like, okay, so this guy you don't know, probably will never meet, and like doesn't probably even know you at all, right? He comes to an area that's near you, not maybe your hometown, but you're like, I want to check this guy out. He's up on stage telling you some stuff that probably can't happen, but you're like, that's more like what I like. And then this person that again you don't know, have never actually met, decides to ask you for money to go to other towns to tell these lies that probably can't happen, and you support them by giving this person you don't know money. And then if they are elected, and all the stuff, the promises that you knew like probably can't happen, they can just blame it on the other party and then run again. It's so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
So I just want to inject one point here, Mahogany, is that I was on a podcast. I don't know if I told this the other day. I was on a podcast with a guy from the UK, Great Britain, and he was really cool. At the end of the day, he's like, I want to read through an audio. He did a lot of audio, like audio books and stuff. You know what I mean? Audio scripts. He said, I want to do an audio version of one of you guys' plays works. I told him about all these scripts he wrote. So I sent him the Mad Dad script. And I did scene 11, which I know you don't know off the top of your head. It was the
top of my head, no.
office scene between you and Kelly. And he did an audio recording of that. And we have talked about wanting to listen to someone else do that forever. We gotta get together over his wedding week. Kelly's getting married, by the way, folks. We gotta get together and listen to that audio. I've listened to like 30 seconds. Like, no, I'm sorry. I want us all to listen to it live. Be so fucking funny.
I was hoping that buildup was because you were going to play it on here.
I was
Yeah.
I was pretty excited to hear it.
What, do you want to hear it?
If you can get it going, I know you said it's only like 5 minutes. That'd be a good way to end this smorgasbord of a podcast.
All right, you guys really want to hear it?
I can't think
Yeah.
of a more fitting end. Yes.
Just a second. Let me see what this dude's name. Oh, here it is.
Hey, Mahoney, my other favorite word is cattywampus.
Yeah, very cattywampus. It's been
All right,
this whole
all
thing.
right, all right, guys. So to hear this out of nowhere, I'm going to mute everyone's mic. J March, have anything to say before we watch this?
Love y'all. Go for it, Pat.
All right, we mute everybody's mics here. I'm going to take off my headphones. All right, folks. We're going to hear the Mad Dad recording. Here, let me change this up too, by the way. Make sure the audio file. Don't do a built-in microphone, and we're going to put this up here. And let's listen to this guy's live.
Scene 11. Jack is sitting at a desk in his office. His phone rings. Jack. Jack Doodley. Glenn is on the other end. Glenn.
There's
Jack,
Glenn
what the
Ford
hell are
George.
you doing? Jack, I'm at work, Glenn. This is my work phone. Glenn, what do you say? We've got to hit some golf balls? Jack, oh, jeez. I love to, but I've got work to do. Why are you at the office, Glenn? Took the day off. I needed a good breather. Jack, I see. We'd love to. But like I said, I've got stuff to do. Glenn, oh, come on, Jack. Jack, Glenn, I can't, buddy. Glenn, just leave work a little earlier. Glenn, it sounds tempting, man, but I am swamped. Glenn, come on, Jude. Jack, I can't, Glenn. Glenn becomes angry. Glenn, well, that's gay. Jack, excuse me? Glenn makes a whipping noise on the phone. Jack, what the hell was that? Glenn, you're a little whipped, wouldn't you say? Jack, overwork? Glenn, I say so. I mean shit. You spend 10 hours a day with it? Jack, this is a joke, isn't it? Glenn, no, Jack. You're a whipped bastard. Jack, Glenn, what's got into you? Glenn, you've gotten into me. Jack, 'cause I don't know. Wouldn't go hit some golf balls? Glenn, you have shoved a stick up my arse, Jack. Just because you're handicapped and pussy whipped doesn't mean I have to be. Glenn, oh, Glenn, I'm going to hang up now. Glenn, you're an idiot, Jack. Jack hangs up. He shakes his head in disbelief. Jack, what the hell was that about? Jack sorts through some papers. His phone rings. He answers it. Jack. Jack Dooley. Glenn, Jack. Jack, what now, Glenn? Glenn, it's almost the anniversary and Amelia's death. I need some companionship. Jack, Glenn, I would love to hit some golf balls this weekend, but right this second is not a good time. Glenn shakes his head. Glenn, whatever? You're a moron, Jack. Jack, because I wouldn't go hit some golf balls on the moron? Listen, Glenn, I'm sorry you're feeling a little down right now, but you can't call me and slam the hell out of me. Glenn, shut up, jackass. Jack, don't call here again. Jack hangs up. His phone immediately rings. He hesitates before answering it. Jack, hello? It is quiet. Jack, hello? Glenn, come on, 1 round of golf balls. Glenn, I'm serious, Glenn. Do not call him again. I won't answer. Glenn, come on, you stupid ass. Jack hangs up the phone. His phone rings. Blah, 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 blah. Doesn't answer it. He rings until the answering machine comes on. Machine, you have reached Jack Dooley at 404 Main. Please leave a brief message. With your contact information, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Beep. Then answer your damn phone, you cock muncher. Seriously, Jack, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm a good friend in need, and you just turn your back, you sorry piece of shit. Answer the God-forsaken phone and talk to me, you idiot, man.
Whoa.
That was something else. Wow.
And that's why the British version of American shows always fails.
You've put a stick up my ass.
Can you imagine if that's how that scene was? You are a cock muncher.
Just no like inflection of like getting upset or anything. Oh.
We should just have that guy just read all of Mad Dad. That'll be the next podcast. We can just sit here and listen.
We should get that guy on and just have him read like a bunch of dirty like sext messages.
And then my wife came in. She was a dirty cock muncher. Oh,
You know the funniest thing is, Kelly?
well, that was worth it.
I did not even respond to him at all, and he sent me scene 1 out of nowhere on YouTube.
Get him over here. Let's reshoot it. The British version.
The British version of Mad Dad.
We should just do like, we should set him up and we can all just do a read through of a script. Like, but we want him to play the super crazy character, but I want him to have no inflection at all.
Well,
I will murder you.
I'm sure no one's listening at this point, but Mad Dad was a movie that we filmed back in what, Pat, 2007 or something, 2008?
Something like that. 2006, I don't know what it was.
So yeah, that was great. I'm glad that we got to share that.
Yeah. Glad the audience enjoyed that.
Yes. Thanks for sticking with us. That's I'm sure that's 5 minutes of this podcast you plan on re-listening to.
Fuck you, Jack.
And the funniest part is in the script it said my name was Glenn, but my actual name in the movie was George.
Yes, I took a script, the original script, his name was Glenn, and then we revamped it to George. So I had a script from a while ago. It was Glenn was his name.
Amazing. That was perfect. I have nothing else to add to that.
All right, guys, as we wrap things up here, we got a guy from Great Britain now reading film scripts for Cut the Brothers Productions. Audio version of all our shows going to come out here pretty soon.
Like if he's doing voiceover work, can we have it like we create some sort of intro and he like introduces all of us, like we just have him recorded?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Patrick Cutler.
You should see if he wants to come on our podcast, man. That'd be fun as shit.
God, you really want him on?
Why the fuck not?
Yes.
No one's listening anyways.
I'm your fifth view.
And hey, honestly, it's about time we get into the British market. Like we could be huge over there.
We could get 15 views from Britain.
So I didn't tell you the whole. Oh, I told Kelly. Oh no, I told all you guys the background in the like we did an entire fucking hour and like a half segment, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I deleted that entire interview. We do it again.
He's not joking.
He wasn't
No.
joking.
And honestly,
I wanna
good
do
for him for practicing. Like sometimes it's just good to do a run through. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
so proud of him
Practice.
for doing that.
Do you seriously want him on our podcast show?
100%.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I want him on the
I want him to,
podcast.
like I want him to be our special guest more than I've ever wanted anyone to be a special guest.
See, I want him on the podcast. I want him to do the intro in that same voice over a trap beat. I think it'd be catchy.
Yeah. Welcome to the Prison City podcast.
Listen up, all you cock munchers out there in the world.
Jack, you. The other favorite part was like, Jack, you cocksucker.
Yes, ask him, and he probably if he's going to read a part of Mad Dad, doesn't he have the right names in the script? He would 100% come on the podcast.
Yes. Please make this happen. Like I don't. I will. If he want. Like I'll pay him $5 to come on. American bucks.
And to retain our listeners, you should get them on next week so that this is relevant.
Yeah, I can get out next week. I gotta check his time.
It will show. It will show the reach and power this podcast has. We're gonna get a guy from Great Britain on in a week's notice, and it's gonna be like 3 a.m. for him over there or some shit.
Yeah, because we're not doing it earlier or later. Fuck him.
I have a job. I have other things to do.
We live in America, god damn it.
We fought a war in 1776, so we would have to come on our podcast.
Oh fuck.
Okay, I can get him on next week if you want him on.
Tomorrow.
Yes, I can't tell you how much I want him on. 1,000,000%.
I'll go for that.
I'll get him on next week, but we gotta. I'll have to talk about the time, but he's a cool guy. He looks like he's living in, I don't know, Great Britain. He looks like he's living in his mom's basement or something. I don't know exactly. He looks like a shaven version of Scott Grazier. It looks like
He's perfect in every way.
Get him on here.
Yeah.
Get him on here.
all right. I'll tell him next. I'll ask him this week. So hey, you want to be on our podcast? We do it this time and get him on. All right, boys. So that was not supposed to be the ending of this podcast. It just kind of that's where it went. Kelly, I will play you the first scene of Mad Dad that he just sent me like 5 minutes ago because he really wants to do the audio version of Mad Dad for some reason.
I don't blame him.
Fuck.
Everyone who's listening, thanks for sticking in. You guys are a part of our scheduling now. Like you're part of the programming. Like this is really cool. You're not going to get any credit unless you reach in to us directly again at Facebook. That's Prison City Podcast. Send us your names. We'll make sure to add you as producers.
So just we'll cut this off, then we'll talk about who's the next guest behind the scenes. J. Morris, last words, and let's get on with this.
Shoot. This was fun. We should vote online and marijuana should be legal.
So just to wrap this up, last words. I was going to talk about the Georgia voting law and everything else, but after that live audio session we had on Mad Dad, I just don't really have a lot to say right now. So let's just end this thing right now. Peace out, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show. Again, it's a Prison City podcast. At some point, we're always going to talk about the prison, and hopefully we got a guy from the UK on for the next show to talk about UK prisons. And I guarantee he's going to have a lot to say about UK prisons that we don't know about. All right. Peace out, everybody.
All right. See you, everyone. Good night.
Deuces.
Good night.